What's up, everybody? Just earlier this week, we got Season 5 of Modern Warfare 3 and Warzone, and of course, as usual, we got two new guns to start off the season. One being the STG44 returns to us, and the other being the Static HV SMG, a new SMG. We're going to talk about the Static later. Today, we're going to talk about the STG, and the STG, the title's a little clickbaity, this video, but it is broken. The STG is gross in that mid-range. It's disgustingly broken in the mid-range. It's got like no recoil, especially with the new quartermaster suppressor, which is the new muzzle go-to. But it is disgustingly broken in the mid-range. In the long range, it does fall off pretty hard, but within like 40 to 45 meters, you're not going to lose a gunfight if you just have decent aim, unless you're fighting somebody with an STG with better aim. It is one of the most fun ARs we've had in a while. You don't have to run an iron sight on it, like you had to with the RAM to balance out the other RAM characteristics. You don't have to run a 1x on it because the visual recoil isn't too bad. You can run a Choreo Eagle's Eye, so you can see better if you're someone like me who struggles with iron sights and 1x at long range. It's nice to be able to run a Choreo Eagle's Eye, and you're able to do that because there's just not a lot of recoil, especially on this build. There's not a lot of visual recoil, and this is definitely the return of the RAM in a way, when we had that RAM meta where it's just a mid-range monster, and if you're aggressive enough on big map, it also works as well, as long as you're good at closing gaps between you and whoever you're fighting, so you can get within that mid-range and not have to fight long range. So absolutely run the STG. Today we're going to show you the loadout that I prefer. We'll talk about a couple different options if you want to mix up my loadout a little bit, and then of course we'll run into true game data, or run over to true game data rather, and we'll look at it a little more statistically for those interested. But if you're just here for the loadout, let's go ahead and jump into that. Okay, so of course I mentioned, we'll just start off with, I have the Choreo Eagle's Eye. Optic is really up to you. You can run the Jack Glassless if you like 1x, and with the fire aim stability, it'll be even easier to shoot. But like I said, one of my favorite parts of this build is you can run the Choreo Eagle's Eye 2.5x and actually be able to see what you're doing. And then the new quartermaster suppressors I mentioned is the new go-to suppressor. If you look, it gives you 10% recoil gun kick, 23% horizontal recoil, and 10% benefit on the vertical recoil. And it does have a 6% ADS speed and sprint to fire speed, but everybody before this was using the Cassius brake, which only gives you 18% horizontal recoil, so that means 5% less horizontal recoil help, and 10% less recoil gun kick and vertical recoil help, because it gave you none, and you only get 1 more percent ADS, so your ADS goes up 5 milliseconds, and then your sprint to fire does go up 13 milliseconds, but on top of that, the quartermaster suppressor keeps you suppressed and off the map, whereas the Cassius brake doesn't. I don't even remember, does the Cassius brake doesn't even shorten your ping on the map, so the quartermaster suppressor, way better for barely worse barely worse negatives, sorry. So definitely run the quartermaster suppressor on all your long range builds from now on. It is the new go-to muzzle. Then we have the Bruin Heavy Support Grip, and this is where my build really starts to differ from some people's. A lot of people are running the brand new Paracord Grip, because the Paracord Grip has no cons listed, and it helps with the horizontal recoil, it helps with the sprint to fire speed, helps with aim idle sway, and it helps with aim walk steadiness. So, better horizontal recoil control, quicker to be able to shoot it, but that doesn't really matter so much in an AR as it does in an SMG, so that's not really a big deal. Aiming idle sway helps you aim better, and then of course aim walking steadiness. If you're walking with ADS and shooting, then of course that's going to help. Versus the Bruin Heavy Support Grip does hurt aim down sight speed and hurts vertical recoil, but it does help the firing aim stability, which is that vertical recoil that we hate so much. And with it being the 2.5x, I would recommend running the Bruin Heavy Support Grip, because once again, ADS time isn't a super big deal at long range. Of course, this is more of a mid-range gun, but still, I mean, everyone's going to be using ARs, LMGs, or a sniper at that point. You don't have to worry about coming up against an SMG's ADS time. So I think it's worth overall, because that extra vertical recoil, because I'm using the 2.5x. If you want to use the Jack Glassless, go ahead and go for the Paracord Grip, because you're already getting the aiming stability help. And then, of course, I would recommend the Paracord Grip. The other build that people are running, there's a couple other options. Some people are running, instead of the, oh, I didn't even touch on the barrel yet. We're running the 7.92 barrel. I cannot try to pronounce that first word, because it helps with bullet velocity, range, aim, idle sway, and recoil control. If you look at it, it helps with the damage range and bullet velocity 15 and 18% respectively, and it helps with the recoil 6 gun kick, sorry, 6%, and the both recoils 9%. So it helps with those. It hurts movement speed, sprint speed, tac sprint speed, ADS move speed, sprint to fire speed, and hip fire, but we're definitely not worried about the hip fire. If you look at the long barrel, it helps more with damage range and bullet velocity, but it gives you no recoil help. It still hurts some of your movements. Once again, this is our long range gun, and so I'm just not as worried about movement and all that, and I'll take the extra recoil help because this is truly like a zero recoil build. The other thing people are changing out is, especially people that run the Jack Glassless, I notice have been switching to the combo stock with the gun kick control and the recoil control and the aim stability. This is another option over the MWIII Heavy Support Grip. But where I like the MWIII Heavy Support Grip is, once again, that horizontal recoil control, because we can control vertical, so we're not worried about additional vertical recoil control. This does help overall, 21 on the gun kick and an 11 and 11 on both recoil controls, but it doesn't give us the firing aim stability that the MWIII Heavy Support Grip does. Oh, it does, actually. Does it help more? We don't actually know. But MWIII Heavy Support Grip has been the way for me. Of course, try things out for yourself. But I do like the MWIII Heavy Support Grip a lot, and this build feels really good. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the firing range just for a second, show you that this is a no recoil build. And remember, I'm just barely an above average player at best. Nothing. Well, here, let me put plates on the dummies. Oh, I'm just bad. And I won't control this recoil. We'll just shoot at the wall. It's just straight up and a little to the right. This is like very Warzone 1 recoil pattern-y, almost like AMAX-ish. So if you're used to the AMAX, of course, then this will feel pretty comfortable to you, even though the visual recoil is worse. But as you can see there, not a lot of recoil, not a lot of visual recoil. And when we're about to jump to true game data, and you'll see the time to kill in the mid-range is like unbeatable. So this is the loadout I recommend. A couple of changes you could make, once again, the long barrel over the 7.92 barrel, the paracord grip over the MWIII Heavy Support Grip, and then the combo, the DR79 combo stock over the underbarrel. Kind of play around. That becomes more of a feel thing and what you feel comfortable with. All three of those are definitely viable options. If you're running the Jack Glassless 1x, I would definitely recommend the paracord grip to get the extra benefits, because you're already getting firing aim stability. So this is the loadout I would recommend. The changes I would try out if you want to try something else for yourself. If you were just here for the loadout, thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate you being here, whether you watch part of the video, the whole video, or just skip around the video. For the rest of us, we're going to go ahead and jump over to true game data and talk about it a little more statistically. Okay, so now we're over on true game data, and as you can see, we have the STG loaded up with the build I just gave. The SVA loaded up, which is everyone's go-to AR typically now if you want to run an AR. With the typical build, and then the Holger 26 with the typical build with the Choreo Eagle's Eye, and the new Quartermaster Suppressor, of course. So we got the best AR besides the STG, and arguably the best LMG, and definitely what was the meta in the second half of last season. So we come down to the chart, and you can see just absolute monster in the mid-range. It doesn't drop off with this build until 42 meters, and at the 42 meter mark, it has a 600... It's so confusing on this chart, because just say right at 42, because it's 42.3, 600 millisecond. If you go all to the chest, that's 113 better than the SVA milliseconds, and 250 better than the Holger 26. That's just at the chest. If you go to the head, it's pretty much the same, with the SVA coming a little bit closer. There's so many ads on True Game Data. Hey, but they got to pay for the site that I'm using, so... if you go to the combination, we'll just use the default values. These are percentages down here of where your shots land. Head 15, stomach 20, neck 5, upper arm 13, chest 27, lower arm 5, upper leg 10, lower leg 5. That's about average for people. And you can see even a combination, it's absolutely broken. So it doesn't matter where you're hitting your shots within the mid-range. You should be fine to beat out the SVA or the Holger 26. Of course, after it drops off, you can see it quickly starts to become the worst. And by 56 meters, it is the worst. But outside of 56 meters, now you're going to have a lot of trouble with snipers. And so the long-range AR and LMGs don't become as big of a factor. And we can scroll down and look at some of the other number stats here. These are more important to talk about when we talk about SMGs. But the ADS move speed, it's not really any slower. They're all about the same. The ADS time is slower than the SVA, but faster than the Holger with this build. The bullet velocity is virtually the same as the SVA and way faster than the Holger 26. Crouch speed's a little slower. Fire rate is the slowest, which does make this a little bit more difficult at times. But of course, a lot of people on the SVA are using it on the burst, which you can't add attachments on true game data for the burst for some reason. But so that fire rate is actually a little bit slower. So the fire rate makes it a little more difficult to use, but it is not that bad. The hit scan range is pretty much the same as the SVA, way better than the Holger. The mag size is 10 less than both, so that is a little unfortunate, but you kill so fast, it's just worth it. The move speed is slower than the SVA, but pretty much the same as the Holger. The reload time is way faster than the Holger, but a bit slower than the SVA. The sprint speed is the slowest. The sprint to fire speed is the slowest. But once again, this is an AR, not an SMG. And like I said, most of these numbers are more important to the SMG. And the target flinch is all the same. So the numbers aren't super important. What matters more for long range is the time to kill. And the combination is a good way to look at time to kill. I wish you had like a miss percentage here as well. And then it would do, and then you have these percentages of the bullets that do hit. But that's something to suggest maybe to Tony at True Game Data. Anyways, the STG, to sum it up, is definitely broken within the mid-range. If you try some other builds, like if you switch just everything else and you switch to the long barrel and get rid of that recoil help, then we're pushing it all the way out to 47 meters, and it's not the worst overall until 66 meters, although it becomes virtually the worst at 58. Another thing, if you really don't mind the recoil at all, is to drop the Bruin Heavy Mag, and then you could go for high grain rounds if we're really trying to push this out. And now we're all the way out to 54 before it drops off. And before it becomes the absolute worst, 76, and it doesn't become virtually the worst until 66. So definitely something to try out for yourself. Definitely something to play around with. If you, like I said, if you really want to push it out, you could push it out. Just for a reminder, this is the build plus the Bruin Heavy Support Grip. So definitely try the STG out for yourself. If you'd rather keep sniping, keep sniping. If you try it out and you prefer one of the other long-range options, stick with those instead. Of course, at the end of the day, Warzone is about what feels good to you and what's fun for you. But the STG is definitely broken in the mid-range, and I would definitely recommend using it. With that all being said, please don't forget to hit that like, that subscribe, that notification bell if you like content like this. Within the next day or two of this video releasing, I should have something on the new static HV SMG out as well. And also, I say it every season, but I'm going to actually try to stick to it. Recommends for long range, short range, loadouts, all of that coming in the next week and a half after this video. So hit that notification bell so you can see that first. And let me know down in the comments down below. Have you tried the STG? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you more of a sniper, so you're not going to bother? Let me know what you think about the STG down below. And while you're scrolling down, all of my links are down below. Twitch, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, my other YouTube channel where I upload my single-player gameplay. If any of that interests you, please feel free to follow, like, comment, subscribe, whatever, on any of the other platforms, because all the interactions on any platforms always make my day. Love interacting with people online. But I will see you on Urzikstan, Rebirth, Vondel, and Fortune's Keep. Get frying. Have a good day. Bye.